Laura Riley. My name is Chris Chichester. You've known my name since January 4th, 1986. That's when we met. Laura Riley of Webster, New York at 781 Winifred Drive. I do not know if that's your address. Using Google, that's the address that came up when I typed your name plus Webster, because I knew you lived in Webster, but I don't know if it's that address. Laura Riley of the Fairport Public Library. I don't know if you work at the Fairport Public Library, but there was a meeting of, I believe, the library trustees or employees, and it said that you were hired there as an aide at the library. But I don't know if that's the case. Well, you know why I don't have certainty as to your address, 781 Winford Drive, and possible employment at the Fairport Public Library? Because our relationship ended a significant period of time ago, 5 years ago. So, Laura, did you receive my registered mail return receipt to 781 Winifred Drive and the Fairport Public Library about my illegal eviction and what this landlord from hell, Giuseppe Spano, did to me when he evicted me without a court order? And it requires a court order for an eviction. Do you, Laura Riley, know that you've committed a crime? I'm not just saying this in a general way. This is how you've committed a crime. And I knew this was a crime immediately. And the only reason why I didn't tell you that this is a crime is because of our relationship. And I was also concerned about the state of your mind. And now I'm not. Because I've contacted you repeatedly for answers. And you're totally indifferent. What is wrong with you, Laura? This is the crime that you have committed, Laura Riley. When you took my personal possessions from where we used to live at 26 Sanders Farm Drive in Penfield, New York, to a storage locker in Webster, New York, without a court order, that's a crime. Are you confused why this is a crime? Because a court order is required to prevent a psychopath landlord from destroying a life. A court order is required to prevent a psychopath landlord from using an idiot ex-girlfriend to destroy a life. When I say destroy a life, I own nothing now. Do you know why, Laura Riley? You contacted my sister, Barbara, who you've met, because we drove to Maryland once to meet Barbara and her husband, Nick, and their 3 children. Do you remember that drive, Laura Riley? Because I do. I remember what we talked about. So, Laura, here you are, involved in this criminal act where this psychopath Giuseppe Spano called you and he threatened you. There's no doubt about it. Now, since we've had no contact, I can only guess about that. He used threatening language, words to the effect of, I'm going to throw everything your ex-boyfriend owns away if you don't come and get it. But that's a crime. He's threatening you. That's a crime. You're moving my personal possessions from the residence to the storage locker without a court order. That's a crime. So, Laura, what happened in that conversation with Giuseppe Spano? What happened when you called my sister Barbara? What was that conversation like? What did you tell Barbara about what has happened to me? Did you tell Barbara that I was sleeping outside in Harriswell Park? I will never tell you the full extent of what happened to me in that park and also what happened to me during that period of time. I'll tell others. Perhaps you'll see it on YouTube, but I won't tell you. So, Laura, what are you doing in my life again? And if you're going to be in my life, you should have the integrity and decency to answer the questions that I have. And my primary question is, did Giuseppe Spano, our former landlord, use threatening language when he contacted you to take all my personal possessions at storage locker? And you know what's not in that storage locker, Laura? My books. Perhaps you noticed the fact that I have 750,000 books. I don't even know how many books I have. It's that many. Now, perhaps There are individuals that think, well, that's not a lot of books, but to me it is. 700 books to me that I collected, I no longer own. Did you, Laura, just not decide to take my books? Were the books in the residence and you just left them there? This is part of the criminal complaint I'm going to write about you and Giuseppe Spano. What's the answer? Laura, what about my couch? What about my clothes? Laura, what about my television set? Laura, what about my bed? There are other things missing too that I'm going to detail. Why don't you call me and tell me what is happening? Laura, where's your ethics? Where's your decency? Where's your morality? What the fuck happened to you? Laura Riley? And I'm not just asking that rhetorically. Something happened to you to radically change your life and who you are from that heart that you once had that's been shattered into a million little pieces. You see that picture there? Laura, what's his name? You know him as Alex. And as I used to work with Alex when I was a United States Senate employee, I changed his name to Boom Boom, which you know. You can watch me at all on YouTube. The Monroe County Sheriff's Office came to the residence after our relationship ended to demand I surrendered him. And all I'm doing is walking him the same way 4,000 times in 7 years. This is the fanaticism of the Sheriff's Office. So, Laura, do you remember that day? When we lived in Webster, we decided to adopt a dog. And when we went to Lollipop Farm Humane Society, do you remember the interview? One of the questions, Laura Riley, is of both of us, have you ever been arrested? And the answer from both of us is no. Because if the answer is yes, we don't adopt any dog and we leave. And when we walked to the cages, I said to you, I don't want to get a barking dog, even though I could hear barking around me everywhere. This is one of the best days of my life. And I hope for you too. And then we went to the cages and looking at the different dogs. And I had no idea what we were going to do together or even what I was thinking. And I looked down and there was a Shih Tzu. And then you said to me, he's looking right at you. I'll never forget that. Because it is such a moment of joy and happiness. Because he really was. Looking at both of us. But you said he's looking at me. But he was looking at both of us. This is the person you used to be, Laura. This is the person that doesn't exist anymore. This is the person today that's in oblivion. They came to the residence based on one phone call to seize them. I take it from my walk. The back window from this repulsive shack called the Shaw Law Firm at 2033 Penfield Road that you can see from what used to be our back window opens. And a woman is screaming at me. 30 minutes later, there's a Monroe County Sheriff's Office at my residence. They're demanding him. I said at the front door, Laura Riley, you'll have to kill me to take my little guy from me. This is one of 500 stories of fanaticism I have about what's happened to me. And what's happened to me, Laura, what's that? That's a parking lot next to where we used to live that you could walk through, Laura, without being arrested. You could walk through this parking lot today, tomorrow, every day of the year, 365 times a year, and you won't be arrested. Who's in that picture? That's two of what used to be our neighbors. I will be arrested for walking through this parking lot. I'm the only citizen in Penfield of 36,000. I'm the only citizen in Monroe County of 700,000. I'm the only New Yorker in a state of 17.9 million to be arrested for walking through this parking lot. This is the lunatic fringe. Laura, you know how they set me up for criminal contempt second? I'm walking through this parking lot one day, and this psychopath, Nayraj Shah, lives with his 70-year-old mother. 50-year-old man lives with his 70-year-old mother, screaming at me. And there's a warrant for my arrest after I spoke to Shannon Meyer of the Monroe County Sheriff's Office, a $67,000 cop from hell. And what they did is sell a concocted criminal contempt for me. They told Steve Desmond of a racket called Bracola Tree and Lawn Care, where I just tracked him alongside the residents of this Christian Chichester and get him to come out of the house if he does, we can arrest him. So I see this weed whacking, grass cutting loser come by the residence about 7 o'clock in the morning, come right outside, I stand here, I say nobody owns that land, I walk back into the residence. Laura Riley, do you believe that that's a crime for me to walk outside, stand in front of where we used to live and tell this Steve Desmond of Bracola Tree and Lawn Care that nobody owns land? That's not a crime, Laura. And I was in jail for it. So, You know what I don't own anymore, Laura? You know what wasn't in the storage locker, Laura? Because this is me at a race at the University of Rochester where I finished 7th out of 500. This is my first race in 30 years. And as I'll guess you would call it, I am a runner. And one of the first things you said to me in 1986, and I'll leave aside the details because you and I know where we were. You said, I heard you're a really good runner. This is in 1986 when I'm 20 years old, you said it to me. This is 31 years later where I'm a runner and competing, just like I did in high school. I no longer have this, Laura, because of my illegal eviction. I no longer have that red shirt, those red and white shorts. I saw them at Target. I thought, oh, that's so me. I have to have those shorts for this first race in 30 years. I call my friends from the cross-country team in high school. I don't know if you remember me ever talking about Rick Delgado and Kevin Donald and Kevin McLaughlin. These are guys that I've known since I was 14 years old. I emailed them. I said, this is my first race in 30 years. I no longer have this, Laura. Cobbsville Park, red, white, and blue. Laura, I no longer have this either. I was, I think, 17th in this race up here in Cobbsville Park. This is a cross-country course I ran. This is my life. This is the structure of my life where I don't own that white shirt, that number, those shorts there. This is me again. I don't own that. In another race, it's gray and black. And that's the entrance to the parking lot where we used to live. If I stood right there on that concrete and I'm seen, I would be arrested. If you stand on that concrete and you're seen, you won't be arrested. But that's the parking lot next to where we used to live. If I was to place my feet on this and begin to walk through it, I would be arrested. It's the sick lunatic fringe. So, what's my name, Laura Riley? Where am I now, Laura Riley? Do you know? So when I came outside there and told this Steve Desmond of Broccolo Tree and Lawn Care that nobody owns the land next to my residence, our former residence, they put the handcuffs on me and they took me to some holding cell at Monroe County Jail. And that's when the Monroe County Jail employee came to where I was handcuffed inside the jail cell where I couldn't reach the urinal. I urinated on myself. And on his phone is the video image of me outside. And I'm staring at myself. That's how I know my right arm is moving. And if you're on a camera and there was footage of a human being on the camera and the human being can see prior behavior from 15 minutes, 30 minutes, 2 hours before, what's that camera called, Laura Riley? Because I'm going to get to what happened to me when I accurately describe this camera. It's called a surveillance device. And this is it right here. That's it right there. I hope you can see it. It's right. I want to point to this with the appropriate finger for you, Laura. It's right here. I think you can see it. That's a surveillance device. So I demanded to see when I was released from Monroe County Jail the first time, as I've been in jail 6 times, innocent man, 6 times prosecutor hasn't talked to court. So I wanted to see this video footage. I'm using this phrase online and in email and in registered mail return receipt to Todd Baxter's office saying it's a surveillance device, which it is. And I have subsequently been shown more images by my public defender, Regina Harper, where she emailed me the links from this contraption. Todd Baxter knows that there are mentally ill individuals that he can humiliate that use the phrase surveillance device, that believe they're under surveillance by the government. When I worked on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C., I would occasionally see stories on the local newsroom and read it in the Washington Post about people who think they're under surveillance by the government, especially by agents of the CIA. And this is heartbreaking to read these stories and listen to these people when nobody knows what they're talking about. But cameras are used by the police. And a camera was used by the psychopath police in the Monroe County Sheriff's Office to concoct a crime for me when I'm not committing a crime. So I'm using this phrase surveillance device on YouTube, and I'm sending registered mail return receipt to Todd Baxter's office demanding how much he paid for it, if it's private technology, if it's his camera. And one day I finished my run on Willow Pond Way, which you should know goes through Sanders Farm Drive. And I see a Monroe County Sheriff's Office employee pull into the driveway where we used to live. And I turn around and I continue to run because I don't want any part of this freak show. and the Monroe County Sheriff Office employees with Lindsay Barron of the Monroe County Office of Mental Health. She's with what's called their forensic intervention team. I'm trying not to laugh. Lindsay Barron of the Monroe County Office of Mental Health sees me, gets inside the Monroe County Sheriff's Office. Then they drive to Willow Pond Way, where I continue to run. I'm running toward Wegmans. So Laura Riley, here I am. I'm running to Wegmans like this. Here comes the Monroe County Sheriff's Office employee. I'm running. And then Lindsay Barron is in the vehicle, and she's screaming at me. I want to talk to you, Chris. I'm running. Lindsay Barron's screaming at me. I want to talk to you, Chris. This freak show goes on for about 60 seconds while I'm running and she's screaming at me. She's saying to me specifically, I want to talk to you about the surveillance device. So I get to just about where that low-income housing complex, Crown Oak Estates is, if you call us, right next to Wegmans. And I stopped, and she gets out of the vehicle, and I cut her off right away and allow her to talk to me. I said, we're not talking about anything. They bought a chemical surveillance device. They put it on a building at 2025 Penfield Road. That's the end of the story. I have nothing to say to you. I have to count myself to you. I have to explain myself to you. And she got back to the Monroe County Sheriff's Office vehicle and left. And I was trying to control my anger, which I'm trying to do now, Laura Riley, because I owe nothing, because of you, Laura Riley, and you're refusing to answer questions from me. And the way to force you to answer questions is a criminal complaint. I went from hesitation that you should be arrested, even though I know you committed a crime, to I'm going to demand that you be arrested because you have committed a crime. I don't have vengeance at heart for you. You're just refusing to provide me with answers that I'm demanding about the obliteration of my life that you're involved in. Our relationship ended. You should have just said to Giuseppe Spano, whoever contacted you, he's my ex-boyfriend. He's getting on with his life. I'm getting on with my life, and that's all there is to it. The reason why I'm forced to make this YouTube is you injected yourself back into my life. So, Laura Riley, did Giuseppe Spano use threatening language when he contacted you about moving everything I own from 26 Sanders Farm Drive? Were you in the residence when my things were being moved? How did you pick that storage locker in Webster, New York? Why did you leave my things behind? Where are my books? Why did you leave my books behind? Why did you leave my couch behind? Why did you leave my bed behind? What was your conversation with Giuseppe Spano? If you didn't have a conversation with Giuseppe Spano, did you have a conversation with Antonino Spano? What are the answers to these questions, Laura Riley? What happened to you? Do you remember when you had an interview at the Penfield Public Library and we lived in Webster and we sat on the bed and I pretended to be a librarian interviewing you? That Laura Riley that was across from me, I will always love. This Laura Riley today, especially after our relationship ended, and what you became and what you are is a tragedy. I'm fundamentally the same human being that I have been since we first met in 1986. I'm just more educated. I just have more experience. And I also now have an absolute and total hatred for the police because I'm an innocent man. So, Laura, when we sat on a bed and I pretended to interview you for a job that you will be hired for at the Penfield Public Library, do you remember what you said to me? I'm not going to say it because this is an open forum. But you know what you said to me about our relationship and the status of a relationship. I'm still that same human being, Laura. I don't know what you are. I really don't. I'm not just saying that language to be obnoxious. I really don't know what you are and what you become, what you have become, Laura. So, Laura, why are you refusing to answer my questions? Why are you forcing me onto YouTube to demand answers from you? Because, Laura Riley, When I write the criminal complaint about what Giuseppe Spano and Antonino Spano have done to me by locking me out of the residence without a court order, that's a crime. I'll also write the criminal complaint about what you have done to me and taking everything I own from the residence to that storage locker, also without a court order. Laura, you know I lived in Albany and Washington, D.C., but I don't know the extent that you can recall and if I really told you about my residences. But I lived in Albany at 157 Winthrop Avenue without a lease for 5 years. I lived in Washington, D.C. at 600 Constitution Avenue for 2 of the first 5 years. I lived in Washington, D.C. without a lease. So I'm living for years without a lease. And what I didn't have is a psychopath landlord. And tenants without a lease have nearly the same protections that tenants with a lease. You found this psychopath landlord, Giuseppe Spano, because you decided to rent 26 Sanders Farm Drive. And I should have been more active in the decision for when we moved from Webster to Penfield. So, what's my name, Laura Riley? Do you know anything about me in the last 5 years for what's happened to me? Because I have been in jail 6 times, and 6 times the prosecutor's not talked to court. I've also been violently attacked by Monroe County Sheriff's Office employees, including at the Penfield Public Library where you used to work. I walked over to the library to 1985 Bad Road. I sat down at the computer. Less than 5 minutes after I sat down at the computer, 2 Monroe County Sheriff's Office employees walked in. That's because Psychopaths Incorporated, that work for Sheriff Todd Baxter, followed me to the library. And this has to do with what I was doing to them on YouTube when I acquired the payroll and read the salaries. I stand up at the computer. Where am I going? I'm not going anywhere. I can't escape the Penfield Public Library when they're walking right at me. One Monroe County Sheriff's Office employee with the last name Siemens runs at me, extends his arm like this, slams his arm into the side of my head. I fell backwards. My head hit the ceramic tile floor of the Penfield Public Library. Then the other psychopath with Siemens with Psychopaths Incorporated kicked me. They pick me up, take me through the library, through the door, and what's at the end of that hallway, which I didn't know when you were hired at Penfield Public Library, is Penfield Town Court, where Paula C. Metzler is waiting for me. Without a prosecutor. She's there alone. And there's no jury box for jury 12. There's no witness stand for witness testimony. There's not even a table for a defense attorney defendant and a table for a prosecutor. This room is a star chamber. This room is an abomination. And this is what I'm going to tell the United States Department of Justice about Penfield Town Court. And she's paid this bald-headed widow, Paul C. Metzler, $28,000. So I got a $28,000 bald-headed widow waiting for me alone. That's going to sentence me to Livingston County Jail in Geneseo. You know why I'm going to be in Geneseo, Laura Riley? Because I'm a security risk to be at Monroe County Jail in Rochester, given what I did to Todd Baxter on YouTube with the salaries. Because that's what I was told by the Livingston County Jail employees who watched me on YouTube. I'm in jail next to the State University of New York at Geneseo when I live in Penfield, New York, because I will be attacked at Monroe County Jail by the Monroe County Sheriff's Office employees that work for Sheriff Todd Baxter. So I get out of Livingston County Jail and I run home to where we used to live at 26 Sanders Farm Drive. I put the key in the front door. It doesn't turn. I don't know I'm locked out. I had a New York Mets key made at Walmart that I taped to the back porch. That was removed. The sliding glass door, which I'm sure we recall, was broken. I think I could just slide it through. That was fixed. So he removed the key, Giuseppe Spano, the psychopath landlord, from the back porch. He fixed the sliding glass door, but he didn't fix it when I told him to fix it. And he changed the locks. These are all crimes. And this is after you already moved my stuff out of the residence. I don't know any of this is happening. And I walked to Harris Whalen Park, and I slept in the park for 3 weeks. And that's when you came to see me during that period at Wegmans. And you're not telling me, when you're sitting across from me in Wegmans, what you did to me, Laura. You're not telling me anything about the storage lock. You're not telling me anything about being in the residence. You're not telling me any of the facts and circumstances. That's because I believe you're consumed by guilt about what you did to me. Laura Riley. And what you did to me is commit a crime. So, over and over, I'm in contact with Sheriff Todd Baxter and District Attorney. These are the green cards that go out. This is the receipt that comes back to me. This is the level of corruption in the District Attorney's office. Every time I'm asking, what's the name of my prosecutors who don't talk in court? And they come back to me because that's my name on the back. They sign for it here on this card. This is how I track it. I can track it here too, the United States Postal Service. And I send them usually 20 Freedom of Information Law documents. I can't explain all that, but they're attached on the YouTubes. Laura, I'm simply asking Sandra Dorley, District Attorney, Monroe County, this question. What are the names of my prosecutors? And she's refusing. The District Attorney of this county, which I believe you still live in, Monroe County, refuses to disclose the names of my prosecutors in the public proceeding assigned to my cases. She is absolutely nauseatingly, sickeningly corrupt, this District Attorney, where I can't even find out the names of my prosecutors. And I'm going to continue to use this. This is called the Freedom of Information Law upon her to demand the names of my prosecutors of silence because they can be disbarred at the Appellate Division of State Supreme Court. And there's going to be a different form, Laura Riley, that I fill out. And it's going to be called a criminal complaint about what you've done to me. And I'm going to have details, and I'll attach this to the criminal complaints. Do you know why, Laura Riley? Because it's a crime to move everything out of the residence to 26 Sanders Farm Drive to a storage locker without a court order. That's a crime. You committed that crime. Laura, respond to me at the address on this email if you watch me. I'm not going to be at that address, I believe, for another week. I will have a new address. And I hope when I have a new address, I'm not going to disclose it to anyone. And it will in all likelihood not be in Monroe County and far from Monroe County. But wherever I am, I'm going to be in contact with Giuseppe Spano and you and Todd Baxter and Sandra Dorley when I contact the United States Department of Justice, Attorney General Merrick Garland, Governor Kathy Hochul, United States Attorney for the Western District of New York, Trinity Ross, because I'm doing everything possible to bring Todd Baxter and Sandra Dorley to the attention of those that have power and control upon them. So, Maura, why are you refusing to answer my questions? What is wrong with you, Laura? I'm reluctant to say this, so I'm going to use general language, but I believe you'll know what I'm talking about. As I've known you for 35 years, and we lived at 3 different residences, I know you. So, Laura, if there is a problem I'm unaware of with your health and something that's happening with your health that prevents you from answering me or responding to me, and if you were in the throes of some type of pain and suffering, then that I understand. And you know what I'm talking about, Laura. If you are suffering from something that you cannot control, then tell me. And I'll have the ability to understand where you are in life. You know exactly what I'm referring to here, Laura. And I've always had nothing but sympathy for any type of pain that you have experienced. What I don't have sympathy for and outright hostility for is your refusal to tell me what happened when everything I own is gone because of you. Laura Riley. So, I hope Davis and Sarah are healthy and give you the happiness in life that your son and daughter should always give you.